thanks for coming on, man. Really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me, Shred. Yeah, no, in the past, you and I have had, many late night discussions about Mortal
We
Kombat.
have.
I guess the only difference is now you're recording it and you got a pretty cool podcast coming on. So,
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah,
yeah,
I was excited to have you on because this is the first time someone was like, "Hey, can I come on?" And I was like, "Someone but wants to come on? Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. I'd love
well,
to have you on."
as
So,
soon as I saw you
mhm,
had one, like I knew I really wanted to come. First of all, it's just exciting to see someone in like the Nethercast orbit
mhm,
starting to do their own thing. Like I don't think we can have too much Nethercast and Nethercast,
mhm.
affiliated content.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. And also just, I had heard snippets of your other I've listened to the whole one with Temp now and most of the one with Cyborg. Brusque
Mhm.
is next on my list. And no, I really like you get really in depth with people. Like I like how you don't just talk about the series, but just like people's views on the series in and
Mhm.
of themselves.
I
Like
f- I feel like one-on-one conversations can bring a lot more to light.
totally.
And I've listened to a lot of podcasts within the FGC in general, where it'd be like 3 or 4 people at a time, and I I've always been like a one-on-one conversation kind of person, and with all of my friends too, in like real life, it's like, hey, we, like, hey, you want to go to get a beer? You want to go get a cigar? And we would go down to the lounge, down to the pub and get a beer and like chat it up. And
Yeah.
I much prefer the one-on-ones because that way you can really get in depth with a lot of different things. So like especially when it comes to like this, Mortal Kombat and and video games in general, which Temp and I have talked about Project L. We've talked about Street Fighter 6. Rufelmonger was on. We talked about learning games. It was really cool to actually like go in depth on a lot of different things. And not disregard to anybody who has like 4 or 5 people on a for instance another cast. I just feel like with a one-on-one we can really dig deep into our thoughts, opinions, and emotions about certain topics.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
no, definitely. I mean, I
yeah,
think that's why the Nethercast realized that it was a good idea to do the Lost, where Razor and Shad could just
yeah,
pick apart the lore, and the Warrior Shrine, where Temp and Django can just go at it on the gameplay, really get into the
hmm
minutia of all that. I listen to the Warrior Shrine, and half the time I have no idea what they're talking about, but it's cool that
yeah,
that they can go on there and just get into the nitty gritty of all the gameplay mechanics,
hmm
and people who are into that, they eat that up.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a great segue into like the topic of today, which is the little things. So
Yes.
Temp and I have talked about mechanics, gameplay. Cyborg and I talked about content, DLC, stuff like that. And Brusque and I talked about lore, roster, character design. So you and I were talking about the little things, which I think is actually kind of interesting because going into in depth is like when you talk about little things is like that is the depth, of it.
Absolutely.
You're going under the skin here. You're trying to find the thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
So uh, you mentioned earlier about we were talked about like soundtrack, ambiance. You mentioned what did you mention earlier? That
We were talking about, yeah, I was talking about just overall presentation and
right.
the very different philosophies that all three Mortal Kombat games anyway, of the NRS era
And okay,
have taken as far as presentation goes. It's very inconsistent.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of
You want to
when you were
go and
first
elaborate?
talking.
Go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, so what I was thinking about there when you were talking about, the minutia and the little things, that's the first
hmm
thing that came to my mind is that MK9 presents itself as it should
hmm
as a retro game
hmm
in terms of its coloration, in terms of just, recapturing the feel of the arcade machines, just the
hmm
grand, beautiful, multicolor yet very tonally appropriate feel that the original trilogy of Mortal Kombat games had. It's trying to make you feel that again, and it does so successfully.
Yeah, I agree. If you look back, I think it pays homage to the original arcade era, so MK1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely.
A little bit at 4, but I always focus on 1, 2, and 3 as far as like aesthetics goes. If you look at, MK1 was very like Asian, kung fu aesthetic, like those 70s, 80s kung fu movies.
For the dragon type of vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then very blood sport. And then if you go
Yeah.
and then if you go to by the way, if anybody can comment down below, tell me what this, if you watch Bloodsport again, and I know Rooflemonger actually posted about Bloodsport like today, if you ever go and watch it, when they're actually fighting inside the tournament, you can hear like a sound in the background. It sounds like a cat or like a meow. Just you're gonna go back and watch this now. You're gonna go back and watch it, and you'll listen to Bloodsport. Listen when the fight scenes are going on. You can hear in the background like a meow, And I was like, I always wonder what that is. I'm sorry.
No. I'm gonna have to go check that out now.
Let's go watch Bloodsport after this. Yeah. So anyway, 1 was very Bloodsport, very Enter the Dragon, Kung Fu, movie. Then you had number 2, which was very kind of, I felt it was very kind of like sci-fi doom and gloom. And then
yes, very much like Gothic fantasy feel to it.
Yeah.
Gothic feudal Japan fantasy, which is very unique. And I think that's when John Tobias really started to find MK's identity, was during the making of MK2. Yeah.
And then you go to number 3, and it was like apocalypse. It was end of times kind of coming around, and that was also,
which people were somewhat highly critical of at the time. Actually, people were like, "Oh, why are you making things modern? That's not why we like this." And
ironically enough, people are having the same criticisms.
Right.
Yeah, and that's, and I really liked. I loved UMK3. Mortal Kombat 2 will always hold. Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 will always hold a place in my heart, because Mortal Kombat 2 was the first exposure to Mortal Kombat I had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Straw Hat Pizza after a baseball game. Go out, and you remember how in the arcade machines back in the day, you used to, when you ran out of quarters, you used to fake like you're playing. And
play along with the attract mode.
Exactly. Yeah, I used to I read all the story. So remember the first time I ever saw Mortal Kombat was Sub-Zero's Ice Rock fatality on Kitana, and watching Kitana's still standing legs, right there. That was the first exposure to Mortal Kombat. And then I was like, oh, I'm in love. And then at a Sega Genesis and Mortal Kombat 1, my neighbors had a copy of Mortal Kombat 1. And of course, I was playing it when my mom didn't know, and so that's
parents never knew just what was going on in there, did they? Yeah,
they never did. So yeah, but if you skip forward to 3D era, the theme has definitely. I think they kept paying an homage to that theme a lot, especially MKDA was very Asian aesthetic. I thought that was back to that kung fu movie style. Go to Deception. Deception was the most diverse, and I think that's why a lot of people and that's not the reason people like it, but I think the 3D era in general is just really unique in that perspective, because especially Deception and Armageddon, dude, they go all over the place with everything.
Well, I think that the 3D era, first of all, I don't think I'm just speculating when I say that the devs had more freedom to do whatever the hell they wanted back then. I don't think Midway suits were looking over their shoulder the same way that WB suits are now.
I could see that. Yeah. I think Midway was kind of like, here's the money, you can have it, make a good game. You have 1 year to make it.
Sells. Yeah, make something that sells. If it sells, we're happy.
Exactly. And it's like but the money they got wasn't near as much as they're getting now.
Oh God, no. Pennies.
Dude,
pennies.
And it's really funny too, because I think Ed Boon did say, like, Conquest we made with the little money we had in the very, very little amount of time that we had. And it was like, dang, you made that in a year with that much budget. It's like,
Well,
dude,
let me be clear.
props to you guys.
As far as I'm concerned, Conquest, considering what they had, is a fucking
Mhm.
masterpiece.
Yeah.
Deception Conquest is like, it's silly, but
Mhm.
like to make like an RPG in a fighting game like that with the resources they had, I mean,
Mhm.
that is downright impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
like,
is very impressive. I agree. I 100% agree with that.
and just think what they could do now if like
Mhm.
either they wanted to or they let them, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Armageddon came around and you still had the Taven and Dagon story. And then whenever and that's what I like about you know, when it came to, I don't want to get too far into costume design yet, but it's like when I see Adenians, they in Armageddon, the first time you see Taven and Dagon's mother and father, it was like Argus and what was his mom's name?
Delia.
Thank you. And Delia.
Yeah, Delia.
Yeah, okay, Delia. Yeah, when you see like that was, I thought those were perfect designs because when I think of Adenians, I think of like Greek gods. You know.
Now that's funny because
Mhm.
like if they really wanted to do the Greek things, they have Edenia. They did not need to impose poorly read Greek mythology onto lore that was already there.
Right.
That they didn't need to overwrite anything. Like Edenia had already been set up as this kind of Greco-Roman
Mhm.
type of society. If they really wanted to explore that, they already had a sandbox to do that in. They
Mhm.
did not need to infringe on something else. But
Yeah.
I mean,
I really hope that we do.
Yeah.
I hope in MK12 we can get an Edenia. That would be really cool. I really hope
I
that
miss
happens.
Edenia.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, like so many of my favorite characters are the Edenian characters. So
Same.
if we
Yeah.
if we got Edenia in there, then we get a lot of the Edenian characters. So
Yeah.
that would definitely make me very, very excited for the game if it was going to be Edenia heavy.
And I will admit, well, when we get into character design in here in a little bit, it's like MK11. I got to give them props because they did a lot of bad, but they also did a lot of good as far as character design goes. And like Rain was one of the. I thought Rain looked perfect. I do like his look in MK9 as well. Like I can't think of a time when Rain really looked bad. But it's like when I think of Adenians, that's what I think of. I think of like Tanya and Rain. You know, that's the way I look. Like Jade, I thought I hated her costumes, but like Jade's overall, like her face and her physique and her skin tone and her accent, dude, her accent was perfect. I was like, that's what I think of Adenians. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, she sounded good.
Yeah.
She sounded good. Well, here's the thing, Rain. Talking about the little things here, you know, Rain's my favorite character. So of course, if there's going to be a character, it's in the name. It's the first name. At that, Rain's in the name. So if there's going to be a character I pick apart, it's that one. And so I will say, like 9, I thought he looked great. Aside from the mask that kind of flapped back and forth, I thought that looked a little silly.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Anytime he moved, that thing was just like kind of flapping back and forth like it was, you know, a skirt over his face.
Yeah, he's a half god. You think he would know better,
right?
So yeah.
And then, of course, in 11, I like pretty much all of his outfits in 11, give or take, except they had that shoulder pad. Like they gave him a classic outfit, and it was so cool to see Rain in an MK2 outfit. We've never seen that in game before. I've only ever seen that on my friggin' Storm collectible. Yeah.
Right.
So it was so cool to see him in the MK2 outfit, but then he has a hockey shoulder pad. I think it's a knee pad on his bicep. It's like, why? Why is that there?
Yeah.
Why do you have to make me look at that? Like you are so close to perfection, and then you add in something that is just like, you know, the biggest eyesore.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah.
No, that was I agree. But in his if they would have made him a little bit more easier to play, I think he would have been a great competitive champion. But yeah, he was hard to play. He had a great move set, but dude, he was just too hard to play.
I haven't enjoyed playing as Rain in I didn't enjoy playing as him in 9, and I tried. Like I tried to
Mhm.
learn him and like all the ins and outs, but it was
Mhm.
just like I can't. He feels too weighed down in 9 and like too slow, and he can't really control space on anyone.
Yeah.
And then in 11, okay, so the reason I didn't like him in 11 is he played like most of the 11 characters, and I did not like how most of the 11 characters played,
Okay.
which is poke and throw. Like you feel like in order to do anything, you have to poke and throw.
I just feel like
60,
you had to
70%
work
of
too
the time.
hard to get. You just had to work too hard to get anything off.
Oh,
You know.
definitely. Yeah.
So,
And again,
yeah,
he's so weighty and slow, and just he
yeah.
feels so tied down that I don't feel any mobility with him.
You had the same problem as Molina, which is you had to be like 0.0 range to really get anything. I mean, he had a lot of forward moving. He had a lot of forward moving combos or BMBs, but I still felt like it was not a lot of range, not a lot of footsies, I guess, to it. I don't know. It's just, I don't even say that. It's like, I might sound like I don't know what I'm talking about right here, but it's just, he was just
No more than me
I know.
when it comes to this shit. Yeah.
That's the point. Like, he was a very confusing character. He was very confusing to play. But anyway, yeah. So little things, that's kind of like the little things we talked about. It's like the little the little itty bitty details that are in there. So yeah, themes going forward to the NRS era. I felt that Mortal Kombat 9 was perfect as far as themes go.
As far as the presentation goes, yeah, it
Mhm.
was presented flawlessly. I mean, I was so hyped when I saw that trailer,
Yeah.
man. I was like, "Oh my god, it's going back to 2D. All
Mhm.
the characters look cool." I mean, it was the PS3 era, so like those of you
Yeah.
who are younger looking back now are probably like, "It looks so bad, dude." Like it was 2011.
No, dude,
and
if you watch it and like if you watch it in 4K at 60 frames per second, it still holds up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
I think
I
it
think
still
so
holds
too.
up.
Yeah.
But that could be me.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's like, have you ever did you ever play Witcher 3?
Yes.
Dude, if you watch Witcher 3 now, you'd in Skyrim as well. If you watch Witcher 3 now or Skyrim, you'd look at those games and be like, dude, like these graphics are garbage. And then you actually like play it, play the gameplay and stuff like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, this still holds up. But it's like compared to now, like God of War Ragnarok, it's like yeah, it doesn't compare to that, but at the same time, it's like, no, they're pretty solid graphics.
I mean, dude, I feel that way about MKX. I was watching an MKX FMV the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, that does not look good." And it's not even like that's not a critique at all against the graphics, because back then I thought they looked amazing. It just,
Yeah,
graphics are just moving so fast.
What's so funny about that, dude, is about that topic is that, dude, back in like the Nintendo 64 era, like I remember getting I remember playing GoldenEye, okay, and then a couple years later, still Nintendo 64, I got not Tomorrow Never Dies. What was the No World? The World Is Not Enough, and I got that game, and I was like, oh my gosh, it looks so real. Like the car, oh my gosh, the guns look so real. Like everything looks so real. And then you look back on it, you're like, what was I thinking? It's like that.
Yeah.
That's just because it was the time that you were in. But I mean, fast forward today, yeah, I would argue that MK11 is probably the best looking Mortal Kombat for sure. As like graphically and aesthetic, graphically
they finally
and design.
got the faces right. The faces and MK11 look great.
Yeah.
It took a while, but now that they nailed it, they really knocked it out of the park. The faces look amazing.
I think so too. They did a great job with that, and with everyone. I can't think of one character that was like they didn't. You know what I mean? So
right.
Yeah,
I mean, Shiva doesn't look the best, but I mean, like that I think is more just like a design. Like that's just how they chose to design her. They made her, they chose that facial structure rather than the more like kind of, I don't know, sharp angular face that she had in UMK3, which I just find that more preferable.
Yeah. And they didn't give her the onesie thong
right.
the leotard, whatever it was that she's been in her entire life, and then all of a sudden they put her in that. I'm not a saying it's bad that they put her in something else, but it's just like we're so used to Shiva, and then to put her in something, you know, like this warrior thing. I remember even wasn't Cy Brusque. Yeah, it was Brusque actually. He was like, "Why would you give her a shield?" And I was like, thinking about it, I was like, "You're right. Why would you give Shiva a shield?" Like
They just needed to give everybody a weapon in that one.
yeah, I understand that, but
Yeah.
it was kind of interesting because the whole point of them was that the Shokan is like this big brutish, you know, war tribe, and then he's like, why would you give her a shield, you know, because and everything, like I don't necessarily like disagree and stuff, but it's like, yeah, Shiva's kind of hard to argue against her design, but it's also hard to argue for it as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of like leave Shiva out of it, because it's like, I don't know, you could like it, you could there's a lot of arguments for and against her design, but I didn't like it, but I can't tell you why. I just didn't like it. That's all.
It could just be because we're more like older school fans, so we're like, oh, we wanted to
Yeah.
look like how she used to.
Yeah.
So you know, it could just be as simple as that. But I don't know.
Mhm.
There is just something off about it to me. But that being said, as far as the facial scans and facial designs go, that
Mhm.
is the outlier, because everything else, from just, you know,
Mhm.
the standpoint of how real and believable and pleasant to look at the faces are, how human they look,
Mm.
they really knocked that out of the park in
They
11
did.
overall.
No,
Yeah.
they really did. Like, uh, no, it was really cool to see actually bring like true personality and character to them. You know, like to really give them a like identity. It was really cool, and I really like that a
Yeah.
lot. Uh, some of the like I've always been a huge Katana fan,
Me too.
and Katana in MKX was one of my favorite designs.
Yeah. No,
And
that's the best outfit she's ever had, I think, is her MKX primary.
I like her primary. I also her primary was cool because it was also very Asian, but
Yeah.
I also really liked her tournament. I thought that was because I like that old school, you know, Adenian style, like Greco-Roman you know, style.
That was a good version of her MK9 outfit, which was
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
So it was nice to get a good version
No,
of that.
I actually like the MK9 version of it, but not for the reasons why people dislike. I I like it because it looks good, not because it's what she should be wearing, which is a
Right.
what I would say. I'd argue. I wouldn't even. I don't like to bring up the whole, you know, covering them up argument. Because people get way too in deep, like way too in depth about it, and yeah, it's not something that I think it's just an overplayed topic, but
With you, I couldn't care less.
uh,
As long as they look good, I don't care if they're wearing too much or too little. Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I've seen that argument done to death.
Hmm.
I've
I
deleted
mean,
so many comments from the Discord of people saying dumb shit about that because
yeah, and like I'll like openly go, I'll like openly say no, I like Katana's MK9 outfit, but not because Katana should be wearing it, because I like the outfit. You
right.
know, same thing with Jade. I would argue that Melina, the only one I could argue for is probably Melina, because I'm like Sindel too. I think Sindel had a pretty good outfit, but also it's because that's like it fits Sindel's like character. Same thing with her outfit in MK11, but
Yeah.
Melina is probably the only one where it was like, okay, that's um it fits Melina because she's a seductress succubus kind of character, so it fits her.
She's a femme fatale.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But then go back to like Armageddon. It's like Jade's my favorite outfit of all time was all of Jade's outfits in Armageddon, like all of them. But particularly the one with the two buns and the pigtails. Like that was one of my favorite costumes on Jade.
Trying to remember the Armageddon. I remember her Deception outfit.
Hmm.
But oh yeah. No, I remember. These are awesome.
Yeah, I really like Jade's out.
Mhm.
You know, those outfits were cool. But I mean, it's also because I just think whenever you design those characters and you're thinking about being revealing, I don't think of it as being revealing. I just think of it as cultural, like a Denian culture. You know, we're talking about like Greco-Roman. So it's like, uh, I just think of it like that. I just think of it as like, okay, this is like, you know, that's just how they dress, or that's just how they wear, you know, their clothes. So that's my only argument for it. You know, it's not.
I think that's a perfectly valid point too.
Mhm.
Like I think that is a valid argument in favor of that style of. But me, it's more set. Like I like the one piece bathing suit look just because, like, dude, I grew up on like 90s superheroes and stuff, so I just think it looks badass. Like I
Yeah.
think a girl in a one piece bathing suit type of thing, just she looks like she's ready to fuck shit up. Like you know,
like the MK9.
not more. I was thinking more like MK2, MK3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like just that the whole one piece bathing suit thing. Like to me, it's just like I think that a girl in a one piece with a weapon is just something not to be fucked with.
Right. See a girl at the beach and she has a couple fans and she's in a one piece. Do not cross that person.
She
cross
will
that
cut
woman,
your
dude.
head off. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is a 10,000-year-old assassin. She will fuck you up.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, that's my only argument for it. Is like it's my argument for it. My argument for those outfits is it's a Denian culture, and we've always seen Denians dress like that, and so yeah, that's just kind of the way I see it. And if you look at the men are the same exact way. If you look at like Rain and
oh dude, Rain loves showing you how much he's been lifting. Like that that's
bro.
character trait is like he is just like, yo, I'm a fucking demigod and I'm hot and I'm gonna stab you in the back. What are you gonna do about it?
Just like I think I forgot who it was. It was my boy Shinobi. I was just like, dude, I don't care how like straight hetero manly you are, if you see Rain, if your dick doesn't move just a little bit, like from seeing Rain, it's like that's kind of, but yeah, I thought Rain looked really good, but it like I said, it's like that's just how they dress. That's their culture. That's what they wear.
Rain does have a big following in like the LGBT side of the Mortal Kombat community.
Melina does as well.
Both of them do, yeah. And like in Rain's case, I can definitely see why, because it's just like, you know, he's not the guy you want to introduce the parents to, but he's the one that'll show you a fucking wild night on the town. Yeah, that's for sure.
But also, it's like, which kind of makes me on that topic. It makes me wonder why Kung Jin wasn't. I think it's mainly because Kung Jin was just like not that liked of a character. You know what I mean?
And also he's not purple.
Yeah.
If they would have made Kung Jin purple, then like he would be, I think, a much more popular character among that demographic.
Right. But like it's funny that that Rain, because he's supposed to be like a pay homage to like Prince, right? The rock star Prince. Okay. Have you ever listened to Prince before?
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen him perform?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen him perform in the 80s?
Definitely.
That's the straightest guy you'll ever see, dude.
Oh,
and like guy goes on stage wearing like leopard bikini with leopard thigh highs, hair done up with the red or with the bandana on, dude, shredding on the guitar. Not gay at all. So
no, Prince definitely was not gay. No, absolutely not,
dude. Just listen to the lyrics of Little Red Corvette, like,
I who know, like, but Rain did develop that fan, and I actually think that's cool. Okay. I think that's cool that like a section of the fan base, the gender sexual minority section, which is actually a pretty extensive demographic in the Mortal Kombat fandom now, which again, that's pretty freaking cool. And I think it's absolutely
in the
very
FGC in general.
In the FGC in general, yeah.
It really depends. I mean, if you go to like the Guilty Gears, the Skullgirls, Mortal Kombat, yeah. Definitely there. Definitely in those games.
I really just enjoy that,
Mhm.
like, they just kind of said collectively, like almost like they held, a city council meeting, and they were like, all right, Rain and Melina, that's our characters.
And Tanya. Yeah.
Tanya too. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that really gained heat because they made it,
Hmm.
confirmed in MKX that Tanya and Melina are
Hmm.
/ were a thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's MK11. MKX, they kind of hinted on it.
Yeah, well, I think Tanya's ending in MKX is like no, the ending was that Rain was a valid concubine. Tanya just like she'll book anybody, just whoever suits her needs at the time. But
Yeah.
there was a dialogue with her in MKX that did definitely hint at that.
Hold
But
on.
yeah, no, I think that's cool. That, like, it's funny because NRS was like, oh, here, we want to give something to our gay, lesbian fans. Here's
Hmm.
Kung Jin, and then the gay and lesbian, bisexual, trans fans were like, no, thanks, Rain. We're, we're
Yeah.
good. We appreciate it though. Yeah, we already got one.
Yeah. If only Kung Jin was just a likable character. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
mean, well,
Yeah.
they almost went out of their way to make him annoying. He's
Hmm.
I think of all the combat kids in X, he is the most grating.
Hmm.
Just with his, like, how many times have we seen that archetype in, different forms of, like, either superhero or
Hmm.
anime type of media, that, like, I'm the guy who does things better than all of you. I'm an
Yeah.
arrogant prick, and I'm going to show you guys all up. It's just like, man, like, do that, but like with a twist of something else, please.
Yeah. And he never really learned. That's the other thing too. Like, if did you watch Maverick?
Top Combat, yes.
Okay, Hangman.
Hmm.
Hangman is the Kung Jin. He's the arrogant,
Yeah.
like, I do things better than you. I'm the best there is here and everything. But it's not arrogant like the way Maverick was back in Top Gun in 1987. I had to stutter there a bit. But if you look at Maverick now, it's like Hangman is that character. But the cool thing is like when you see him humbled, and you also see him learn from it later. And that's why Hangman was such a good character, because later on he was like, they
He has a growth arc, for sure.
exactly, yeah.
Hmm.
Kung Jin doesn't have a growth arc.
Like, it would have been
Hmm.
cool if we just had one, like, where Kung Jin, all they needed to do was
Hmm.
include one line near the end of the game where he looks at Cassie or something, and he's like, you take the lead on this.
Yeah,
Or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's all they needed to do, and they didn't bother. Like,
yeah.
the
And
last time Kung Jin.
same thing with
Go ahead.
Cassie as well.
Hmm.
I would have liked it if you watched her actually, a Bieber, because it was like Cassie's the leader. No one like, okay, here's Cassie. She's the leader. It's like, okay, what did she do to
Yeah.
deserve this first?
MKX Cassie kind of has the Jason in Power Rangers problem. It's like, he's the Red Ranger, he's the leader. What else is his personality?
Yeah,
He's the Red
exactly.
Ranger, he's the leader. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
back then everybody just looked at Jason and he was just the leader, and that's what he did. They're like,
Hmm.
there was no growth arc, there was no like
No.
humbling yourself or anything, because Jason was just a good leader back then.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't until Tommy came in and people were
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, like that. Now there's a little bit of a question over who is the leader, because
Hmm.
this guy's just as, if not more, charismatic than Jason.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
And I mean, Jason had the personality of a rock, so yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, with all due
Give it
respect
to
to Austin
Zach.
St.
Zach had
John,
some personality, bro.
dude, I love Zach,
Yeah.
man. I want to learn hip hop keto. I want to learn some hip hop
Dude,
keto right about now.
Zach had so much soul, bro. Like, in everything he did
Uh-huh.
was freaking sick. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it's like yeah, Kung Jin, there's no growth arc. Cassie, there wasn't a lot of growth arc. Jackie was just there. And I think that's why, like, I thought Takeda had probably the best arc out of all of them.
And his mostly came in a flashback, is the thing. Like,
Yeah.
Takeda's arc was more about how did he get from where he was to where he is now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Which is cool to see, but
mhm. But yeah, so one thing I wanted to touch on was on talked about little things. So we talked about theme, and on the theme, what you were talking about earlier was visuals.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, we kind of we can come full circle on that. Yeah, with
yeah, it was
the
visuals, and we talked a little bit about the visuals in the arcade era. Deception also, I kind of think they just had pretty decent visuals, because you go like all these different places and you see the different things and the different colors and everything like that.
realm has its own identity,
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly.
there's a very clear art direction with
Hmm.
everything. Hmm.
Yeah, even as subtle as it is. I mean, of course, they didn't
Yeah.
have the budget to like bring in as near as much as they would have liked to, but still they had it. But then you go into um NRS era, and it's like MK9 clearly. I thought the visuals were done pretty good. They're
Yeah.
done pretty perfect actually, and every single play, every single place, whether it was the pit, whether it was the acid pool, um, where else, even the dojo was pretty cool with the rain in the background. And
That was cool. The
yeah,
courtyard, both day and night, look great.
yeah, exactly. Like
Hmm.
they all looked really good. The stages looked really good, and all the colors really popped as well. It's like,
Yeah.
and they didn't just it just felt very organic and real. It's like Katana, of course, she wore blue, she had her blue, but it's like you could clearly see that was Katana. It's like Jade with her green, and Scorpion with the yellow. But it's like if you cut forward a little bit to MKX and MK11. MK11 is a different story, because you had a really good point earlier
Yeah.
on we were talking about, but MKX's core was very bland.
They
Um,
were really going for the muted color palette with MKX.
yeah,
I think they wanted to really instill this dark, gritty feel to it. So
hmm,
their instinct for that was to give everything this grayish, brownish tint.
yeah,
And like you were saying, bland. Bland is a good word for it. Everything
yeah.
just looks bland.
Even
It really.
even in the music too, is like when I was listening to the
Mhm.
music, I'm like, okay, am I watching The Dark Knight or am I playing Mortal
Right.
Kombat? It was very like Hans Zimmer. It just dark, dark ambient, epic music and everything, and it just didn't feel like a Mortal Kombat. Like,
No.
if you were to listen to the theme song or the menu music, you know that okay, when you first log in and it says Mortal Kombat and you press and it makes that sound, okay, that's Mortal Kombat. It's like it does that dark
Yeah.
gritty sound. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
I'm playing Mortal Kombat, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, dun, 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 and that music. I'm like, okay, is is this Christopher Nolan?
Right. No,
Is it
there's a
is
lot of Nolan
Yeah,
influence in
there's
X.
a
There's a
yeah.
lot of. Well, Cyborg did a great video talking
Mhm,
about like how those old menu musics, like that, as soon as you hear that MK2 or MK4 select screen music, you just like you feel it. You're like, okay.
mhm.
I'm ready for a fucking Mortal Kombat match.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh my
hmm
gosh, dude.
yeah.
Mortal Kombat 1, it's like, the
Oh
whole
yeah.
like do 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 do
Hmm.
that song, and you're just like,
That takes me right
I'm
back to
get
the Genesis, man.
boom. I'm
Every
like
time I
I'm
hear
like
it.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
fight. I'm gonna fight, like that. And
Uh huh.
number 2 as well, but then number 3, it's like dun
Very
dun,
haunting.
I was
Very
like,
haunting in
oh,
three.
and
Yeah.
dude, the end is nigh. That's still that
Hmm.
was, and then you go into the character select screen. You're just like, all right, I'm getting ready for a fight, And yeah, Cyborg did a great video on that, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna link that. By the way, I'm gonna link that in the description below. I highly recommend you go watch
Yeah.
Cyborg's video, because
Everybody check that out if you haven't seen it. It's only like a
oh
10
my
minute video and totally
yeah,
worth your time. Yeah.
oh dude, it was so good, and he talked really well on like, I'm getting ready for a fight, kind of thing. And my favorite was the one that sticks out to me the most as far as like music goes, was actually Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 for sure. Mortal Kombat 1 for sure
Yeah.
definitely stood out th- so well. But Deception and MK9, because the character select screen music, it was almost like dark funk. It's that's the only way I can think of it describing
I
Deception.
love the Deception music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the Deception select screen music is up there for me for sure.
yeah, and then I really till this day sometimes just to listen to the first like 20 seconds of it is the Deception menu music. Is like that
Yeah.
whole it what I think I want to say is a didgeridoo, but it just sounded I don't know.
I'm not sure actually.
I don't know what it was and stuff, but it's like whoa, and it has that
Mhm.
that very Asian sound to it. And yeah, when I was like, oh, I'm going into Mortal Kombat, and we're gonna
It
do
makes you yeah,
yeah,
you enter the realms. You kind of
exactly.
you step within the realms right there. It brings you
Uh-huh.
into another world, which I mean, when you're playing a
Uh-huh.
when you're trying to engage in an immersive experience about,
Yeah.
different realities conquering one another.
And that's something Temp brought up.
Yeah.
Just to swing back real fast to the whole like character design and
Hmm.
costume design, is that you can't it you can't base character designs on the real world. You can't base character designs and costume designs off of not American, but just real world standards, because the moment that you do, I'm not entering into the realm of Mortal Kombat.
No.
And that's what Temp did a great job of doing that. I said my argument for the costumes for the Adenians was that that's Adenian culture, that's how they dress, and everything. Particular, Melina is like the far off exception and everything because of her character, but it's like that just looked like Adenian to me. But the moment you're like, okay, I'm gonna completely cover up and put a hood over Jade, I was like, that's just
Brown hood at that.
yeah, like a crap brown with green grass like color.
That's right, kids. Jade is a tree.
Yeah, but it's like the moment you did that was the moment I'm like, I'm not in Mortal Kombat anymore. I'm looking at my Starbucks barista who's walking into her job that she hates. Like that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the movie, the movie clerk, the theater clerk who's giving me my tickets to
Right.
go see a movie. It's like, I don't want to see that. I want to walk in, I want to turn on Mortal Kombat, and I want to see like yoked out Baraka who's ready to do some damage. I want to see beautiful Katana who's the 1,000-year-old assassin. Like that's what I want to see. I'm in Fantasyland. I'm not in in Northern
I
California.
don't ever, yeah, I don't ever want to hear any of and I don't know if they ever have out loud, but it almost
Mhm.
just, you can kind of feel the rumination trickling down of them asking, like, oh, well, we can't do this because it's not feasible. Dude, I don't care about your aesthetics being feasible in
If
this
that was the
martial
case,
arts fantasy game.
if
Like,
that was the case, every single
yeah,
character would have died on the first punch.
yes,
The first
yeah,
time, if you MKX's Melina's back 1-2, instant death. The Katana doing her MK11 Katana doing her back 2-3-1, instant death. If that was the case, everybody instant death. Is like if that was the case, then freaking Shao Kahn would have killed everyone immediately. Because of how like just giant 7'5" half dragon beast just
and
stomping on people. It's like
you remember back in the day
mm,
what Ed Boon said. He said, like, I'm not interested in creating games that emulate reality. Reality is
mm-hmm,
boring. I'm interested in the
mm-hmm,
impossibilities of reality that you can only achieve within
yeah,
that alternative world that is, an interactive gaming experience.
exactly.
And that's one thing that always stuck with me. And one thing that, like, as far as I know, he still adheres to.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think anything that we're seeing to the contrary, let's just say, is pushback from other forces.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think it was kind of in poor taste for their lead character design. I forgot his name. During MK11, he's like, they're not going into they're in a fight to for their lives. They're not. This isn't a bikini fighter. And I got to give props to like games like Guilty Gear and Street Fighter, and you know they're sticking with their aesthetics. I mean, like when I see Street Fighter 6, I still feel it still feels exactly the same as when I saw Street Fighter 2.
I mean, yeah, because if you're going to tell me that, if that's going to be your position, like, oh, well, Katana's, you know, going to go fighting for her life, you know, or Melina's, you know, she's fighting for her life, so she can't be dressed in revealing clothing. Like we're sticking with reality on that one. It's like, okay, then take her out of the constricting tight leather pants. Like, you know, like
have you ever tried lifting up lifting up your leg in like tight leather pants?
Dude, I spent my entire late teens and early 20s in bands in Los Angeles. I have experienced that. It's no fun. Let's just say it.
Oh man, and I thought the emo days were bad, but
no. Try like
that was what, dude. I was in I played bass and drums.
Tight.
When I was in a couple of bands when I was in high school, dude, and I would wear the fitted jeans, but I refused to wear girl jeans. And during the scene era, you know, it was like we were huge into like Taking Back Sunday, A Static Lullaby, Story of the Year. Those were like the bands we were like really into. And all the guys in my band were like wearing girl jeans, and I was like, sorry,
You're like, I'm not doing it.
I'm 6'3". They don't make them.
You really should.
Yeah, I'm pretty tall, but it's like that. But it's like I'll wear the fitted jeans, sure, and stuff. I mean, I still do, but it's like to the point. It's like I'm not wearing girl jeans. Sorry, guys. It's like it's so uncomfortable. I don't know how girls wear them, but they're so uncomfortable. But
yeah, I don't think I ever actually wore girl. Well, no, actually, I did borrow some of my friends' pants, like who were girls. I would actually borrow. I was a skinny kid in high school, and yeah, I would.
Easier. Yeah.
I was like, now I'm 5'11", so back then I was probably like 5'8", 5'9". So like, yeah, I could definitely fit into some of my friends who were girls' jeans, and I would be like, let me see if those fit me, and I would be like, God damn, they look better on me than you. Let me have them.
Yeah.
That was the time. Now I couldn't imagine wearing tight jeans, dude. Like just wearing nice loose baggy jeans is so comfortable. Like,
oh, dude, yeah.
Maybe it's just my age, but like it's just like, no, I could not care less to wear tight. Aside from the fact that they actually look ridiculous and I was wrong. But
I look at some of the bands I used to like. I was really big into Under Oath, Norma Jean. Who else? There's a couple other bands.
AFI was my big one from that scene. I was really into AFI. I am, actually.
I got into AFI during the punk era, and then they kind of AFI. You can't put a genre on them, dude. They jump around genres so much.
You heard them now? Now they're doing like 80s like proto-punk synthwave stuff.
Heck yeah, bro. It sounds so good.
They are just all over the place, man. Yeah. I saw them live like a year ago, almost a year ago now. I mean, those guys are in their early 50s now, and they still have the energy they did when they were 22.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah,
the whole, like, working out 3 hours a day vegan thing is really working out for them. Like Davey Havoc, man, that guy is just like a ball of energy up there knocking over mic stands. The roadies are just having to clean up after him because he's just like still a fucking hardcore.
Can you imagine being a roadie and just being like, I just set that up. I set that up, and you have to knock it down.
It's like automatic, dude. It's automatic. He knocks down a mic stand, they run out right away, they pick it up. He knocks over like, you know, a guitar, they pick it up. Like
they're like the tennis ball kids. Yeah.
He falls on his back, they come out there and help him back up.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah. No, they absolutely, like, I couldn't, like, I was trying to think of a comparison, and I was like, okay, think of like a band before, like Motley Crue. By the time they were in their early 50s, they were unwatchable live. Like, they sounded awful. They looked their age, but
they
like
also did like massive amounts of drugs.
Oh, they did all the drugs. Like, yeah, I think half the drugs in the 80s were done by the members of Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue. But yeah,
I would agree with that one.
But no, like it shows in their age. But yeah, meanwhile, these straight edge punk kids, in their early 50s.
I want to say one thing: Guns N' Roses still sounds good. Ever since Axl Rose, my wife went and saw him live, and ever since Axl Rose and Slash buried the hatchet and they got back together, now they're touring together again. and Axl Rose is actually showing up to concerts.
What a concept.
Right. I thought one of my favorite jokes was when Chris Rock was he was inducting Guns N' Roses into the Hall of Fame. This is 2011, 2012, I think it was. I think it's 2012. And Axl Rose wasn't there, but they're inducting the Guns N' Roses into.
I remember watching this actually.
Yeah, and Chris Rock goes, even if Axl Rose was going to be here, do you think he would actually show up by now? Like, everybody kind of had a laugh because they knew exactly what he was talking about, and the only person who didn't laugh was Duff, and he was just standing back there like,
sense.
Yeah, we've experienced that firsthand. We know what it's like. Yeah.
Funny story about Duff. So I have one of my old bandmates, his father was like really deep in the music industry in the 80s. Like he was in several bands, he worked in studios.
Yeah.
And then like the mid 90s, he was, wasn't a producer, but he was working the soundboard or whatever in a studio.
Yeah.
And
back end stuff.
Duff Duff comes in recording bass parts for one of the Guns N' Roses albums that was coming out in the mid to late 90s.
Okay.
And people were like, everybody in there was like, "Hey, Duff, is Axl coming today?" And Duff was just like, "I don't know. Why are you asking me?
Yeah.
Ask him. I'm just here to play bass, man." So my friend's dad pulls Duff aside and says, "Hey, man, like, you're a great bass player. Why do you deal with Axl? Why don't you just go do your own thing?" And then Duff looks at my friend's dad and says, "I'll tell you why, man. Because every time Axl decides to sing, I get $1 million."
I would believe that. I would 100% believe that. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I thought that was a great story. I was just like, yeah, no, I'll wait around until he's ready because this is a pretty sweet gig for me, actually.
Yeah. So I would do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because every time I play bass and Axl sings, I get $1 million. It's like,
so I'll wait. Yeah. I'll wait around.
Wait.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll wait for him to finish this last episode. Whatever he's got going.
Whatever he's going. Yeah, exactly. But it's really funny too. I was thinking about this. So I play Guilty Gear too, and they have a character called Axl Low, who's obviously based off of Axl Rose. And if you look at him, it's like, dude, it looks like Axl Rose or a fan of Axl Rose. And
an Axl impersonator.
Yeah, and I showed my wife, whose celebrity crush is Axl Rose. So needless to say, I hate him. But I was like, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm sorry, I showed a picture. I was like, hey babe, check this out. And I was like, look, there's one of the characters in Guilty Gear. And I showed her Axl Rose. She's like, that is terrible. Oh my gosh. First off, Axl Rose would be wearing skin tight leather pants. He would not be wearing that kind of jacket. And I was sitting there, I was like, dude, okay, whoa, hold on. First off, so I was like, it's based off of Axl Rose, not actually Axl Rose.
It's supposed to be Axl Rose.
It's influenced by, I was like, calm down. She goes, no, that is garbage and stuff. And I was like,
she was not having it.
Yeah. So, and I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get really good at Axl Low. I'm gonna enter into some kind of tournament. I'm gonna try to do my best to become a pro Guilty Gear player. And when they ask me about my Axl Low play, I'll be like, a funny story about that. I did that to spite my wife because she's a huge Axl Rose fan and she hates Axl Low. So, but yeah, no, I would never do that to her. That's terrible. But it was like, I was always thinking, I was like, it'd be funny as if I just got really good at Guilty Gear with Axl Low just because my wife hates that character.
Hey, Axl and I are going to.
We're going to Evo.
The finals over here. Yeah, we're going to Evo. See you later.
So, anyway, but yeah, trying to think. Yeah, so AFI. Thrice was my favorite band for the longest time. Still to this day, Thrice is one of my favorite bands. And same kind of thing that you cannot put one specific genre on them. Yeah, they still have that same energy. Same thing. If you watch them live, they still do. If you listen to them too, if you listen to some of their their interviews, it's like they're just these subtle, really humble guys, but then you see them on stage, you're like, that's not the same person I was just talking to, you know?
On a whole other thing going
Yeah,
on, yeah.
exactly. So anyway, yeah, music, I felt like the arcade era and Deception and MK9 definitely had an identity. It felt like a Mortal.
Yes.
Every single game you log, when you hit start after you see the opening theme, it was like, or the opening title screen, it was like, okay, this is a Mortal Kombat game. And then you go to MKX and MK11, and no, it was like Hans Zimmer, you know, dark epic saga. It didn't feel like an MK. It didn't feel like I was going into an MK game.
Something missing.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely something missing. There's a collection of things missing. So when you combine the music with just that dull look, you really and also just like it also, I don't think it helped that they changed the logo too, and I don't necessarily think the new logo looked bad, the one that they picked for MKX, but it's all about the little things we were talking about, right?
It was a great logo.
It's a great logo, but you combine all that together with like the strange and kind of more distant sound effects, like that they weren't very familiar, and the more Nolan-esque music and just the muted color palette, and then you just see a different logo. That different logo is like the final thing that lets you know, like, oh, we're in a different era now. Like we don't have those same identifying things anymore, and that logo is partially there to tell us that.
Yeah. And here, I'm gonna try to find this. Title, not title.
Just think the text in MKX too. Like the health bars were white, and the round ones were white. The finish hymns were just white. It's not that big, bold fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very Microsoft Word looking font.
Yeah, and I even the title screen music. Let's see if I can find it really fast.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really remember the MKX title screen music off the top of my head.
It's very, very Egyptian sounding. It's
okay. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
And here, hold on. Yeah, it's very like Egyptian. Like it sounds very epic, but it's like
out of place.
Yeah, it's cool. I'll give it that. It's cool, but it's not a Mortal Kombat.
Right.
You know? And then there's that one. And let's go to main theme OST. No, let's do this one. See. No, same thing. There was another one though, and I remember listening to what I do is I would actually I was listening to what was it? Desert Command? No, not that one. Here, I'll find it at a different time. But it's like I was listening to it, and I was like putting my thing to it because it was like it also sounded like very Egyptian, but I was like, you know, kind of humming whenever I was waiting for like the next fight, and I'd be like, you know, it's like, but. I remember just kind of like, you know, entertaining myself, but yeah, just it doesn't have that same kind of like kung fu grits, I guess you could say, you know, that the MK1 and MK2 did, that even you know,
3D era.
Dude, 3D era killed it, man. You know, listen, MKDA and MK Deception, dude, had some killer music in there, dude. And yeah, I highly recommend anybody who's watching to go listen to that. It's particularly MK1 and MK2.
Yeah,
there was some strong identity in that. And here's what I challenge anyone to do. if ever, I'm probably going to make a short video on this. I told myself I would. Is that take if I was to take Halo, Final Fantasy, what was some other ones that I made a list too? Is like Halo, Final Fantasy, I think it was a Tekken. There's a couple other games in there too, but it's like if you were to close your eyes and someone play you those songs, you'd be like, "That's Halo, that's Final Fantasy." Even 1995, Mortal Kombat, synth. What was that? What was it called? The synth music? Yeah. You listen to that. That's Mortal Kombat. So it's like anyone could do it. Anyone can identify that. It's like, so Mortal Kombat definitely, I think as far as like musically, it needs to have that. I think in the next installment for sure, they need to actually bring in back some of that identity that it had with the menus, with the title screen, the theme songs, the menu screens, to have that. And so I probably can't describe it better than how Cyborg did, because Cyborg really did a great job. And he's like, I'm going into a fight, like, hear the drums, hear the Japanese war drums in the back, and you're just like, dude, I'm going into it. And so it just didn't, it didn't feel like that at all in the most recent games. And very few times that did. So
well, and then when we get to 11 here, the most recent entry into the series, like, I don't know whether it's that they heard the criticism that MKX was too muted and bland, because that criticism was very prevalent, being thrown around that this game just looks so grayscale. And MKX, like, there was a lot of critique about that.
Okay.
So I don't know if they heard that, or if they just decided on their own, like, ooh, yeah, that was a little stale looking. Let's see if we can pop it up. And to a certain extent, to their credit, MK11 does look more bright and vibrant and alive than X did, which was welcome. It was definitely very welcome to see. I remember everybody on the Nethercast Discord was very excited about that.
Yeah.
When we first started seeing visuals from 11 during the marketing cycle.
I thought the MK11 actually did look very good, as far as the theme goes. And I thought they did a really good job with the colors as well.
However,
no, I mean, I don't even think there is a however. I think, like, we talked about it a little bit earlier before we started recording, but the Wuxi Dragon Grotto.
Grotto is excellent.
Yeah, that was probably the best one. That's my favorite one. I actually really like the Hourglass prehistoric one. That one was pretty cool, just because it's
T-Rex made that interesting. I'll give it that.
Yeah,
the T-Rex as a stage interactable, I was like, okay, that's actually that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I think it made sense when you're playing Nightwolf too, because you're like, I'm fighting in the woods, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I really like that one, but what is it? Oh yeah, so when you're on like Shang Tsung's Island or in the Shaolin Temple, those didn't do it too much for me. I really like the fire garden. That one was really good. Yeah, I thought they did a pretty good job with the pool, the acid pool.
The Soul Chamber and the acid pool were really. It was great to have those stages back.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job, but I will admit, like, it did kind of feel. And so instead what they did, so MK9, the color palettes were really good, and everything just flowed really well together, but then
like everything looked away for a reason in 9. Like if something was purple, it's because it was supposed to be purple. Like, the Wastelands and Outworld are purple, so they're going to make them purple. And whereas, like, what's another good example? Like that very orangish red apocalypse feel that the rooftop has. Like, it's because the world's fucking ending. So it looks like, the world is being swallowed up by a hungrier, bigger other world, elsewhere, outworld. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everything was done for a reason in
Yeah,
9, better or
and
worse.
and it made sense, but all the colors like fit really well, and all the themes and everything fit really well, and everything. Um, you I get your point, and I see it with MK11. I kind of disagree because I actually did like a lot of the stages in there, and I felt the color palettes were done really really well.
So it's not the stages so much that I have a
Mhm.
problem with in 11, actually. It's more the interface. They really went hard on the, like, somebody, I don't know, somebody in the corporate office said, ooh, yeah, the last game wasn't colorful enough. This one should be colorful. Oh, yeah? How so? I know, yellow. And,
Yeah.
and like, they just never fucking looked back after one guy said that. Next thing you know,
Hmm.
the whole game's yellow. And I almost like
Yeah.
that's almost it's the same problem as MKX with like everything being gray washed, only now it's yellow washed.
Yeah.
It just felt like any time, any chance they could, any opportunity there was to make something yellow, they were
Mhm.
like, oh, let's make it yellow. If we can't make it yellow, we'll make it red.
You know, it's funny.
Like,
You know what's funny about the color yellow? Yellow psychologically pulls your attention. If you were to take, like, when you're taking a test, if you were to take a yellow piece of construction paper and put it underneath the white paper that you were taking the test on, you are your brain is more susceptible to paying closer attention to the questions.
that's interesting. I guess
Yeah.
that's why like caution lights are yellow too,
That's exactly
because they
why.
grab.
Yellow
So
and red.
I
That's why stop signs are red. That's
that
why all those caution is yellow, because red and yellow particularly grab your attention really well. So I probably maybe just spoiled the entire um, business market for Mortal Kombat because
I
they're like
think you're onto something there.
yellow, red everywhere. It's like, let's grab all
Someone
their attention. It makes sense that
some
this, yeah.
like yeah, amateur retention department guy at WB was like, "Oh,
Well, I
by
took a
the way,
business
like
psychology class
yeah,
in college.
yeah. Yeah, no, I took Psych 101 5 years ago, community
Yeah.
college, and I heard that yellow really keeps people's attention. And then like one of the higher up suits was like, "Really? Okay, yeah, make it all yellow.
Yeah.
Do it, yeah." As a result, I mean, it's funny you say that because yeah, it grabs your attention, but
Hmm.
like it makes everything really jarring to look at
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
everything is yellow. Like,
Yeah. The yellow
and if
definitely.
something's not yellow, it threatens to turn yellow if you like
Yeah.
highlight over it with your cursor or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so MK11, I felt like it it could, yeah, it almost, like, I wouldn't compare it to, but it's almost like a Zack Snyder film, you know. It's like it's like, let's put, but not as bland, I guess. I mean, not that Zack Snyder's bland, but what he'll do is he'll use a lot of like bland colors and then use big bright colors like red and yellow to accentuate the theme of the particular scene that he's using.
Here is a primary color to let you know
Yeah.
the significance of this. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing when, like, if you watch the movie 300, it's like red's big, blood and
Yes.
stuff like
Red
that.
everywhere in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with the movie like Sin City, it was like pretty much black and white except for like
Some red thrown in there.
red, and they use a lot of red. They use a lot of like I remember, like, oh, her eyes were purple and it showed her eyes being purple, and like that. So they did a lot of that. So yeah, I felt like Mortal Kombat 11 definitely were like, okay, fine, you don't want bland colors, we'll give you colors, and not only that, we're gonna give you color,
Right.
yeah. But I want to, I have nothing to complain about as far as like the color palettes go, because I felt it was really well done. Yeah, you were right. Like, everywhere they could throw in like red and yellow to really grab your attention on those parts, I think is over. And what's funny is I'm looking right now at the theme, at the box art, and it's just a yellow ninja with a yellow background with neon yellow Mortal Kombat logo, dragon logo.
It's kind of gross to look at.
It's pretty exhausting to look at,
I'm happy I got the steelbook for that reason alone, just because it's a nice gold MK dragon on it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can do that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, in the next game, color definitely keep the color that they had in there, but yeah, less jarring, less yellows and reds
You
for
mentioned
everything.
you mentioned the Dragon Grotto, and I think that was probably my favorite new stage of the
Hmm.
NRS. That and the Cove in X. I really liked the Cove in X a lot,
Which one was that one
actually.
again?
The Cove was the one at the dock with the big skull rock face in the background. I loved that stage. Like, yeah, it looked muted and gray like everything else in MKX did, but I don't know, man. I just like fighting on a dock. I like the big skull in the background, that kind of like orangish yellow sky that you had in the
Uh-huh.
backdrop. And that stage fatality was just absolutely terrifying. Like the fucking tentacle monster dragging you
Oh,
to the depths.
in MKX. Okay, yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
MKX. Yeah, in
Yeah,
MKX.
I was literally about to say, I think that the dock, I always call it like the Skull Rock dock stage. I forgot what it's actually called.
Well, rocked up. It's just the Cove, I think, with
Yeah,
a
the
K.
Cove. Okay, thank you. The Cove with a K. Okay, of course it's with a K. But
Duh.
but yeah, it's I really like the Cove, and it's probably the one stage in MKX that I'm just like, okay, they're, it's the one stage that they're like, they really put um a lot of color and personality into.
I think they
Yeah.
spent the longest on that one. Like, I think that was like the flagship stage of MKX for a reason. Like, I think that's the first one they showed.
Oh, really?
No, it was the reveal trailer. The reveal trailer showed the Deadwoods first,
Okay.
actually. But in the launch trailer where they showed like, oh, here's Devora
Hmm.
and whatnot, like, yeah, the Cove showed up right away. And yeah, I would like to see the Cove come back and the Dragon Grotto come back. I think that
Yeah.
those are really defining stages from the NRS era thus far, and it would be cool to see them come
Right.
back.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well, the
So,
Dragon Grotto, like, it really that has the old school Mortal Kombat feel with the blues and the greens. It really makes you
mhm.
feel like you're in a Shaolin sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's very serene
Hmm.
and calming. Like, it's almost a strange place to have a fight, but it's just like you
Hmm.
almost don't want to fight. You want to just be like, I want to look at that. I want to just look at this stage
Can
for
we
a
meditate
second.
instead?
Yeah. Like, can we just
Yeah.
play Liu Kang
Which
and
is totally
Kung Lao?
hypocritical to everything we were just talking about. We were talking about
Yeah,
themes, how like, oh, I want a character select screen that makes me feel like I'm getting ready for a fight, and everything. And then it's like, we're gonna go to Wuxi Dragon Grotto and
and chill.
and chill. Yeah, exactly. But I think
We're go chill in the Jensei.
yeah, exactly. I was about to say the Jinsei. Yeah,
We're
but
gonna go just grab a couple of martinis and sit in the Jensei jacuzzi and just
I don't
kick
know about
back for a while.
martinis, maybe some mint juleps, but yeah.
Yeah, well, whatever you're in the mood
Yeah,
for.
right.
I'm
Yeah,
sure there's a Shaolin bartender around.
I know it's very yeah, the Jinsei and the Wuxi Dry, it's very like Japanese a spa feel, you know what I mean? So
Lame.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, the music should pump you up,
Hmm.
and like the menu itself should give you that feeling. Like, okay, like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Fuck, should I? But I don't think that necessarily means the stage needs to invoke a sense of like you already have enough going on that like the stage itself can be like a
Hmm.
pleasant and like tranquil look like the Dragon Grotto is. Like a lot of the MK1 stages were actually.
Yeah.
Like MK1, like a lot of those stages, man, like the Palace Gates, like you look at that and like you don't necessarily look at that and go, "Oh yeah, that makes me want to fuck somebody up." You're just kind of going like, "Wow, that is a lot of detail
Hmm.
for, a low-res background."
I think
And it's
I
it's
think
really
as long as it
cool.
sticks to the scene, the theme of the game,
Mm,
because which in which MK11 most of their stages did stick to the theme of the game because there were the theme went everywhere. You're in
yeah.
Wuxi Dragon Grotto, then you're in like Blood Ocean or the Sea of Blood, and then yeah, the Shang Tsung's Island. It went everywhere, dude. And
Totally.
yeah, and they even had the Desert Special Forces. There's it was everywhere. But then if you go to like for instance MK2, there's one theme in MK1. There's one theme in MK2. There's one theme in MK3. And if you look at the stages of those games, particularly MK2, it's like you had the Haunted Woods, you had the Portal. It's like
Wasteland.
Wasteland. Yeah, it
MK2 is just the gold mine of stages, man.
it
That like
really is, dude.
There wasn't a bad stage in that game. Like some people hate on the armory, but I even think that one's pretty cool.
I like the armory.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the acid pool, so acid bath,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And but yeah, every single stage had a great theme, but it like stuck to the theme, but definitely give you that. It's like MK2 was a lot more sci-fi horror, and then MK1 was a lot more, kung fu, and then MK3 was like end times, epic end times, and like every single stage in MK3 it had that feel to it.
Well, yeah, MK3 had a lot of like, here is something familiar to you, but ghastly and empty because everyone's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is now in a Soulnado. So good luck.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So
it's funny.
Go ahead.
Did you ever listen to that John Tobias interview, speaking of the Soulnado, that he did with the Mortal podcast?
No, I didn't. I probably should, though.
Definitely, you should. Anybody should go check that out if you want to hear some just great MK info about the early days of development. Man, he has some awesome stuff to share. But it was funny because the Mortal podcast guy was he was like saying, "Oh, the Soulnado," and John Tobias stopped him and he was like, "Wait, you know what that is?" And the guy was like, "Yeah," and John Tobias was like, "Oh, that's crazy. Like, we use that term amongst ourselves in development, but we never put it into the game. I guess they started doing that after my time." Like they actually publicly started calling it a Soulnado. That was just something we did behind closed doors.
Can you imagine that? It's like you're at Midway, and they're talking about like, oh, the Soulnado stage, and it's like it's a Soulnado, and then like everybody started using it as like as the reference to what it is, and then later on, Tobias just goes, "Wait a second, you guys called it that too?"
It was completely unknown to him.
It's like,
yeah.
He's like,
yeah, he was
so
tripping
funny.
on that. He was like, "Oh wow, I didn't realize they started officially using that. With that was just kind of what we called it amongst ourselves."
I know, dude. It's so funny. So yeah. Another thing I wanted to get on, which was this is the big one for me personally, is sound. So talked about themes, aesthetics, and everything, a little bit of character design, but to me, if you turn off the music, the background music, and you listen to what's going on around you, and it really, that gives so much more feel to what it is that's going on within the game, right? And I mentioned earlier, as I have a theme that if you really want to make something sound more violent, you turn off the music and you enhance the sound of it's not even that, it's probably not even a theory, it's probably what they do, and I'm just like being like, oh yeah, that's totally, like if I would have said that to like Universal Studios, they would have been like, yeah, that's totally what we do, but I noticed it in the Transformers movies, and if you listen to Transformers, when they really want to make something sound super, super violent, you turn off the music and enhance the sound of something, enhance every hit, every clink, it makes it sound that much more bigger, right? And Mortal Kombat does that really big in the X-rays and the fatal blows as well. God forbid, I hope that fatal blows never return to a Mortal Kombat. Just throwing that out there. But
you and me both.
Yeah, just get rid of that. That needs to go away. But X-rays, particularly, Mortal Kombat 9, 2, even in the main menu, it's like and this is going to sound hypocritical for what I'm about to say later, is that when you see Scorpion do the uppercut, and it shows the boom, there, but if you listen to the sound of it, it makes it sound that much better. It makes it sound that much more brutal, right? And then I think of like Melina, her X-ray and MK9, it's like you hear the, stick, and then the knee to the face. It sounds that much more brutal, But I didn't like the way that they did it in MK11, because MK11 to me, it sounded a lot more like, I don't want to say generic fight game, but it's kind of the sounds of it sounded like every other fight game to me. You know, in MKX, I thought they did a really good job with the sound. And
when you pointed it out, like I
Mhm.
definitely noticed it consciously a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, so in MK9, I felt like they did it almost near perfect. MKX, they did a really good job of it too, particularly if you listen to like Katana's fans, you know, and or Tanya's Tonfas, you know, and if you use the Tonfa variation when you have to do, I think it's quarter circle forward 2. I mean, quarter circle forward 1, quarter circle forward 2. It's for quarter circle forward. Yeah, it's like if you know you do that combo, it's like you listen to the tonfas and they actually sound like you hear the like the shink, the metal, you know, and it sounds super violent, you know.
Right.
And in Mortal Kombat 11, like every hit, even in Scorpion, when he hits with his kunai that's in his hand, you know, it just sounds like it kind of sounds like every other fighting game. It doesn't sound like Mortal Kombat, you know, and it's like it just sounds like, you know, dung 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 dung. It just sounds very bland. And yeah, it's here. I'm gonna share screen real fast because I did want to, you know, put this in there. Here is Mortal Kombat 9.
Yeah, let's start with that.
You'll learn respect.
All right.
You are pathetic and weak.
Round 1, fight!
Oh my gosh. Dude. How'd you feel about how that went? How'd you feel about the sound?
Well, yeah, no, every hit lands with weight, whether it be from a weapon or from just, you know, the combos. Like those, like you almost feel like you're getting hit by those combos when like Jade starts popping them out. And yeah, no, like Katana's fans, like they actually sound like they're slicing through something when the fan throw hits. And yeah, that's
even Jade's boomerang is like you can hear it. You can hear the slicing. You can hear Katana, like it sounds, like I said, very violent. Versus in my Sindel, the scream, you know, it isn't like it doesn't have that shriek that it does in MK, which you're about to see, but it's like the whole like, you know, that sounds insane to me. That sounds so cool.
It gives you the feeling that the scream is deafening because it does, like you said, have that kind of whisper quality to it. It almost makes it feel like the scream is affecting you, the player, as much as it is the character. And there's something to be said for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it almost like only an animal can hear it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
exactly. So
the dog whistle.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, yeah, whenever I hear Sindel's scream, it's like, and I'm like, oh, you know, it makes you feel it, right? Okay, so now let's compare that to Mortal Kombat 11.
Jared's bleeding heart.
That heart won Outworld's loyalty.
Then let all Outworld mourn your death.
Round 1, fight!
sentence is death.
So now, in comparison, how'd you feel about that?
So one thing I noticed, because you instructed me to pay specifically attention to the fan strikes, to Katana's fan strikes.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed is that the MK11 Katanas, when they're making her fans, when they're making contact with the enemy character, it sounds like they're hitting metal. It sounds like metal on metal rather than slicing through soft tissue.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an interesting sound effect choice. I'm not sure how they arrived at that, and I'm not sure what they used to achieve that sound effect, but it definitely does feel less, less violent and less like she is striking an opponent. More like the fans are hitting each other.
Yeah, so I mean, if you listen to it, they definitely gave it that like metal slice kind of sound. They didn't skip out on the sound, of it. Same thing with Sindel's spear. They didn't skip out on the sound at all, and
Sure.
I'm glad they didn't. It didn't feel like it had the same kind of weight to it that MK9
Not
did.
the same impact.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't have the same impact.
And the bread and butters, just the regular, your normals, that I felt like MK9 definitely had a lot more impact as well too, because it sounded different every single time. If you listen to MK11, every single hit, like if it's just like a normals, like a bread, like a not bread
I did
butter,
notice that.
it was just it sounded the exact same one. It was just like
It's very uniform. Every strike is very uniform.
And I get it.
Yeah.
They're trying to enhance the bass. If you listen to it, it sounds like it has a lot more bass to it. So it's like you can almost feel it in your chest, But it didn't quite have that same kind of feel to it as it did in Mortal Kombat 9. In Mortal Kombat 9, it felt painful, versus this just felt like it almost felt almost like you're punching a punching bag. You know what I mean? Did I lose you?
Yeah, no.
There you go.
No, you got me. No,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, and I was thinking about Sindel's scream too.
Mhm.
And yeah, it is way less dramatic when it does just kind of sound like a normal scream.
Mhm.
It sounds like a woman screaming rather than something that is like arcane and like we said before, deafening. Like her scream before just has that feel that like if you were next to it, it would make you go deaf.
Yeah. It's not even, it's more like a shriek. I did not like the Banshee thing. I get the Banshee thing. I just wish maybe they even in like a lazy way, they could have said like, oh, she's, Sindel got her powers because she was cursed by a Banshee or something. They didn't even do it in like a lazy sort of way. She's just a Banshee queen. You know what I mean?
No, they want to do different things. They want to give they want to be more they want to give more presentation in terms of the visuals of all their characters' special moves. The thing, yeah, like it would be nice. It's like, okay, cool, you want to do that, but if you're gonna just like you said, even give a lazy explanation as to why that's happening, as to not just with Sindel, but also like why Kenshi has a little red demon who's obeying his command, or why does Scorpion have a little pet, little hell pet? Yeah.
yeah. So they didn't even do that in like kind of like a lazy way.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind the sound of it, but it didn't carry the same kind of weight that it did in MK9 with the scream. It's more like a shriek, but yeah, so I mean, visually, sure, MK11 was a lot more enhanced, and I'll give him that. Like the fight looked a lot more violent, but I just think that's like, technology and graphics being enhanced, as the game goes on. But
that's just the thing too, Shred.
Yeah.
Like just because they can do all these things graphically does not necessarily mean that they should. And I think that they're still kind of, learning that. Like the costumes are a good example of that. Like just because you have the technology to give the characters so much detail, detail in every piece of the costume, it's like, that's awesome. I'm glad you can do that. That does not mean it looks good to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like as far as like the hitboxes and everything goes, I felt like MK11 uh whenever you hit somebody, you definitely see and feel like you hit someone versus MK9. It's sometimes, the I think it's pretty well known that the hitboxes were a little wonky and everything. So I like MK11 for that aspect, but as far as the sound of it goes, yeah, it I don't even think you could see Melina's sighs when she throws her sighs, but even those sound pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sindel definitely sounded a lot more haunting, a uh lot more of like a deafening scream in MK9. You're right. I wish it if you ever get if you ever get a chance to look up like an MK9 Melina fight, and it's like you can find all sorts of things, but just listen to the size, listen to Katana. It's like you really listen to it. It's the sound just carries so much more in it, back then. So but yeah, on that you mentioned
What
the technology. Okay, that
technology?
yes,
There we go.
yes. So that part I kind of disagreed with.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like if you do have the technological resources and ability to use it, you should. As long as it doesn't hinder the gameplay, as long as it doesn't hinder the mechanics of the game and hinder the element of fun. Because for instance, like Mortal Kombat, I'm sorry, League of Legends still to this day is one of the most played games in the world. And no, that game does not have the graphical and technological advances as other games do. And yet it's still one of the most played games in the world. And but with Mortal Kombat, yeah, it's definitely one of the most beautiful looking fighting games ever to exist. Mortal Kombat 11. And I feel like they use their technology and their resources very wisely in that. It's just some of the sounds and the thematics of it, yeah, were kind of questionable, like we were just pointing out and stuff like that. But I feel like if you do have the technology, that you 100% should use it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying like that they should reduce the graphical quality by any means or anything. I was more talking about like this is more visual than sound. I guess that I was just kind of like using that in an example for that. But I was more talking about costumes. Like look at most of Scorpion's costumes, for example. Like there doesn't need to be as much going on in there as there is. It's just that they want to show that because they have such high res capability and they can include these little details in the costumes. They want to do it. And to a certain extent, I understand wanting to do that. I understand wanting to show what your engine can do. But at the same time, I mean, talking about like Mortal Kombat's identity being so tied to like its color palettes and whatnot, Scorpion still looks the best when he's just got yellow on black, like when he's still just
more or less. I actually really
I think
liked...
most of the ninjas still look best in their classic costumes or something like them.
I think it's... I mean, they don't... You're right. That's kind of hard because in MK11, I thought a lot of, particularly the male characters, they look the best they've ever looked. Particularly Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I really like the way their costume designs were. I will agree that Scorpion had a little bit too much going on for him. There's a little bit too many ropes and all these little things that added on to it.
The ropes actually kind of made me laugh because it made me imagine Hanzo Hasashi tying a little rope around his waist every morning.
Right. But if you look at samurai armor, they went deep into their armor and made it look a certain way specifically for certain reasons. And you see like the little ropes and details that they put into their armor. So when I think of like, Hanzo Hasashi, it makes sense to me. But I don't know. I really like the way Scorpion looked. I particularly like the way that Sub-Zero looked in that game.
I
And
like the way he looked once they put him in the Shredder armor. I thought the Shredder armor looked absolutely fantastic.
yeah, the Shredder armor looked cool, but I really like his default costume. You know, with the Chinese themed hat, and I thought he looked great. So yeah,
It looked fine enough. Yeah, but again, like I like those ninjas when they just have a more simple look with like a few details thrown in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like there's both on Scorpion and Sub-Zero, there is just a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I do find there to be, I don't want to say a lack of cohesion, because that's not fair, because there is a cohesive design. It's just that there's not really I don't feel there's a solid base to the design. There's so much flair that like, yeah, it doesn't feel settled down.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you consider yourself like kind of like a I guess a legacy MK purist? Like you kind of want them to keep the past games alive?
In terms of just the aesthetic, the look,
The costume design, stage theme, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I think that the legacy should be kept around in one way or another. I mean, really, because I think we've seen, look at how good the MK1 ninjas looked in MK9. Like, I think those costumes, when you give them a little bit of an update, there's still something to be said to just the grand simplicity that was those, original trilogy era character designs.
So I agree with the Scorpion and Noob Saibot. I thought they looked great in MK9 with that simple design that you're talking about. I really did not like Scorpion's default costume.
No, his default costume was terrible.
Yeah,
in 9.
I really did not like that, and Justice costume was garbage. I didn't like that one at all. But I didn't like that one. I like Hooded Scorpion. I thought that one
I like
looked,
hooded ninjas in general. Hooded ninjas in general look so cool.
And so I'll admit, yeah, I think the Sub-Zero in Noob Saibot looked really good. Scorpion.
Yeah, I was more like the throwback outfits in 9, I thought looked really good. I think there should always be an option to wear the throwbacks because of how good those costumes do look in high res. Like, yeah, like that, they do so much work on this engine, and like those looks, those old ninja looks, I think are very much timeless. Like, look at how good the MK3 ninja girl outfits looked in 11. The Scarlet, Jade, and Katana, and Melina, they all looked amazing in both the MK2 and 3 outfits, but in particular the MK3 outfits. I don't know if the MK3 outfits have ever looked better.
Yeah, I can agree with that one.
Yeah,
I agree. Particularly Jade and Scarlet. I thought they looked really good.
Scarlet looked really good.
Yeah.
I like that you could change the shade just a little bit too. Like there was one more like ruby red Scarlet, and then there was the more like bright blood red carmine Scarlet.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one. But yeah, I think that that's kind of hard. That's kind of a difficult one because some of the designs I really liked in MK9, like I mentioned, Sub-Zero particularly. I really like Sub-Zero's design in MK9. I like Noob Saibot's, but then you go to MK11 and he had they turned him into a wraith, and I thought that was perfect.
Like the ring wraith thing. Yeah.
I thought that was so good.
He did actually, a lot of the wraith shit was cool.
Yeah.
No, like people ripped on that, and I thought that was kind of unwarranted. I thought like the kind of medieval highlights that he had in his costume actually kind of worked.
And I actually liked the sound, the voice. I actually really liked it.
I didn't dislike it.
Yeah, a lot of people did not like it, and I was just like, dude, he sounds sick, man. Like he sounds like a wraith, you know?
Right.
He totally sounds like that. But yeah, as far That's kind of hard. That's kind of hard to pin down as far as because Scorpion is kind of the case right now. You know, looking back at those, because if you look at Scorpion's design, you know, going through the years and everything, one of my favorite designs from it was actually from MKDA and MK Deception. I really
The
liked
primary or the like the
primary.
Okay, so with like the gold armor.
Like I thought that was kind of
cool.
Yeah, I really like that, and the two swords. I like that he had the two swords, and because personally, I really liked Scorpion and MK11 and Sub-Zero. So it's funny that you're like, oh, I didn't like him. They had too much going on, and yeah, I can agree with you that there was like, you know, they had too many like ropes and belts and stuff
I'm just
like that.
just strip them down a little bit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Just like give it more of a base layer and less gadgets, and then I
Mhm.
think you're kind of good to go.
Mhm.
I mean, let me give you another example of that. Like,
Mhm.
because I'm not the kind of person who's like we should only have classic ninja outfits.
Mhm.
Like, A, that's unrealistic, and B, that would be boring. That would make the classic ninja outfits not classic anymore. Then they
Mhm.
would just be,
Yeah,
the same thing.
in every single Mortal Kombat installment, whether
Yeah.
it's DLC, unlockable, or something like that, or even just base default costume, they're always going to bring back legacy costumes. It's inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
And it broke my heart when Ed Boon was like, you know, not likely going to bring back Melina's deception costume. Now I'm not a Melina stan whatsoever, and I'm never going to
Unfortunate, yeah.
I'm never going to threaten someone's life because you didn't bring back my character's costume. By God,
Right.
dude, that oh my gosh. Anyway, but when he's like, oh, and you know, would you ever give Melina this costume again? And I was like, yeah, that was a great costume. That was perfect. That was gold standard Melina costume right there, bro. And no, he's like, no, we're not likely. And I'm like, gosh, dang it. Like,
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
yeah, Melina Deception is like gold standard Melina. Where was I getting at? But yeah, the what you were saying? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, an example. I was just gonna
Mhm.
say, like, so you know Rain's outfit where he has the hood
In MK11?
in 11. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I think that would be the perfect outfit for Rain if
Mhm.
it didn't have all the weird silver on it, like any of like the very Destiny looking stuff, like that just kind of looks tacked on for the sake of being tacked on.
Mhm.
Like Rain with that hood and, you know, one of his good masks thrown on, that is maybe the coolest Rain outfit we've ever gotten. If it just got rid of some of those extra gadgets and gizmos. Like, again,
Oh
I know
yeah, I'm
you
looking at it right now, dude. It looks
you know what I
so
mean?
it looks so good. Yeah.
It looks great. It
Mhm.
just it is a little distracting.
Yeah, even so I didn't like Rain's primary. I liked his primary. I take that back. I like his primary.
It was all right. Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't near as good as Hooded Rain, as Adanian Rain, and as Classic Rain. And but looking at it, I'm looking at him right now, and Hooded Rain looks the best for sure. But
Yeah.
shirtless Adenian Rain, that one looks freaking sick. And like the two blades that are coming up, and he has the sash going over, but he also has like the high-waisted belt. You know, that looks
Yeah, the kind of WWE looking belt going on there. Yeah.
but even classic ninjas, the classic ninja Rain, that like, dude, they had some, why couldn't you made this character top tier? He looks so good, dude.
It is. I wish he was base roster in 11, man. Like, yeah, I really, because like now
Not
they've
even
done
just
it.
not even base roster. Just I wish they would have made it mechanically top tier. You know,
Well, and that too. Like, yeah, I mean, I wish they would have just made it I wish I could enjoy playing as Rain. Like, because
Mhm.
now 2 times he's been DLC and NRS games. I've paid for him both times, of course, and
Mhm.
that's just never that slogging kind of like super power hitter type of thing that they gave him in 9 and 11. It's just never how I imagined Rain should play, and it's not how I like to play Mortal Kombat or any fighting game, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
no,
agree.
it has just it's never been my style, and like they made him play I was worried about it too, and yeah, like
Mhm.
as soon as I felt him, I was like, yeah, no, this isn't going to be for me, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I'm
it sucks. Reptile's not in it. I mean,
Reptile would have dominated 11. Oh my god, yeah.
yeah. Uh, excuse me.
He'll be
Um,
back in 12 for sure. I think it's almost
he'll be.
guaranteed.
I think he'll be back for sure. Okay. Last topic I want to
Yo,
bring up: fatalities.
okay, this is a good one. Yeah.
Fatalities are way overdone.
Oh, you and I agree on that.
Dude, I think most people agree on that one. Fatalities were a little fatalities. Okay, so before I get on to fatalities, fatal blows and were replaced X-rays. So X-rays were replaced.
Fatal blows are the main reason. Like if you said RainReptile, give me one reason you stop playing MK11, the first answer that comes to mind would be fatal blows.
Oh, really? Dude,
Yeah.
I could get on board with that one. I mean,
That's not the only reason, but that's the first reason that would come
yeah,
to mind.
breakaways was another one, and I don't want to crap on MK11 too much because there was a lot of good that came out of MK11.
Definitely, there was a lot I enjoyed in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I don't want to crap on it too much because I thought it was great, but I definitely enjoyed it for sure. Not near as much as MK9 or MKX or MK Deception for that matter, but
Same.
yeah, it's definitely MK11 definitely feels like a transitional game, and it's it's like, okay, we're ending this era, we're going on to the next era, right?
To a new era, if you will. Ha.
Yeah.
Never heard that one before.
Right. So anyway, is before even fatalities go to fatal blows and X-rays. Now MK9, I really like the idea of X-rays because, okay, for the first time Mortal Kombat's bringing on a super. Okay,
Sure.
we got a super, and they also made it to where it's like you really had to manage your resources. If you really wanted to use it, you had to save up for it, and rarely did you ever have to, and especially if you have something like Combo Breaker, because you need to use your resources for Combo Breaker. But when you did use your X-ray, if you did hold on to your resources and used it, it lasted 5 seconds. Like, it was very short, and
Roughly.
yeah, and it also didn't look like a fatality. And then you go into the X-rays in MKX, and they prolonged it a little bit, but it wasn't so bad. It was still like 8-10 seconds long, which I still think is too long. And they made it just way more grotesque as well. But then
Gratuitous is the word I keep using. It's just
yeah,
it's so overboard.
it's just overdone. And when I think of Mortal Kombat, still to this day, I think of shock factor, martial arts, a little with a hint of horror, hint of slasher horror. But the fatalities were always goofy. They were always kind of there, just think of like Cabal in his fatality. It's like, oh, I'm gonna reveal my face and I'm gonna scare the soul out of you. It's like, think of Scorpion. He just undoes his hood to reveal a skull and then burns you up. It lasts 5 seconds. It's always
Fine rip, kiss of death. Yeah,
they're always supposed to be really goofy, and like in a sadistic sort of way. And now it's like,
Brad, that's just the thing.
It's so over the top, so overdone.
Well, now with the fatalities being the way they are, I feel like fatalities also used to tell you a bit about who that character was as a person. Kitana is an assassin who doesn't fucking miss. She slices your head off and walks away. It's a job to her, it's a job. She's not there to prolong suffering. She's just she's there to take you out and then move on to the next one. Whereas, Melina is going to fucking eat you because she's a nutcase, and that's what she does. She is a demon mutant construct made by an evil sorcerer. Like she is not right in the head.
When she does the like bites your neck, rips your head off, and then spits it on the ground, and then does this whole like sadistic pose, it almost like she you know, gets off by the violence.
Yeah.
And by the gore, it's like, that's Melina. That feels like Melina.
And that tells you a lot about who Melina is. Like, that shows you right there. Whoa, like this chick is absolutely nuts. If you look at her the wrong way, she will literally eat you.
Well, she's
maybe even if you don't.
What.
Maybe even if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But Katana, yeah, exactly. I felt like the whole like, I actually did like the MKX fatality where she throws one into your sternum and one into your head, and then goes like that, and the fans open.
One was cool. That one was an exception.
And then pulls him back, but like you said, she pulls him back and then walks away.
Her job's done.
Yeah, so
she did her job.
So
what I was gonna say.
Go ahead. I want to hear.
Yeah, sorry, Shred. Is just now that everyone's fatality involves slowly, torturously murdering someone while they're screaming in their last moments, while everyone is, cutting everybody's limbs off before they make the final blow and disemboweling people and, slowly pulling out everyone just comes across as a sadist now, as a completely psychopathic sadist, and the fatalities no longer serve that purpose of aiding in characterization. They are just torture porn.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I always said that.
Yeah.
It's just torture porn. But
and I'm not interested in that, at all. And I don't think a lot of people are at this point. I think
it got to a point where NetherRealm Studios devs were actually getting PTSD.
Yeah.
And
they were looking at like, okay, I don't know if this is true, but I was reading that,
I heard this rumor that you're about. I know exactly what you're about to say.
No, so take this with a teaspoon of salt, but I heard that like on their own volition, they were actually looking at like real snuff films and like actual kill videos for reference, and it was driving them to have, and who wouldn't get PTSD from that? That's very traumatic to look at.
Yeah.
And you know what? Nobody should have to go through that for a video game, man.
No.
Yeah,
nobody should through that in general. I mean,
exactly in general, but especially not for a silly martial arts video game.
Yeah. And there's like kind of like a humor element to it. Like I have some of my really good friends were combat vets, and we love it. And so most of them are actually like pretty cool talking about it. So it's like really interesting to hear hear their stories and stuff like that. Like, and they're very they don't talk about it like in a way a combat vet would be like, with PTSD would. It was their job and everything, So one of my friends particularly, he has a really funny story about one of his, they were bombarded in a room where one of his fellow soldiers had to kill an insurgent with an MRE spoon, and but you think about it and you kind of laugh. Like it's like that's kind of the way fatalities I figured were supposed to be. It's like you think about it, and when they do it, you kind of just like I said, the Cabal one. You kind of think about it and laugh. You kind of watch Scorpion do his fatality, and you look at it, and you're like you kind of smile about it. Yeah, and there's also the ones like you said, like Katana. It should be a quick death. A quick I mean, yeah, Melina like quickly bite your head off and eat it, or something like that, and get some kind of pleasure from doing so. Or same thing. Jade's supposed to be like Katana, like a quick death.
Yeah, no, they don't enjoy killing. It's their job.
No, yeah, exactly.
It's their job.
Exactly. So when I see things like Katana, like slice your sternum open and then start, doing her,
letting blood spray onto her face, like she's Scarlet, like but what, like that? Does she get high off the blood now too? Like I don't understand that. Like, if anything, it gives people the wrong idea about these characters. Like Jax, dude. What is Jax doing, ripping somebody's arms off and shoving them back into their sockets as T-Rex arms? Like, what is that? Like that's that's not that character, man.
No, not at all. So Sonya almost, she's a soldier, so it's just like, Like shoot to kill and get moving on. Like that's what I figured Sony would be like.
Yeah, shoot to kill, give both her and Katana give you that kiss of death, like like I mean, like you said, that's just fun, That's just like like what a way to go. You get a kiss from a pretty girl on your way out.
What better way to go, man? So, but yeah, I just feel like for the next installment, fatalities need to really, really take a hard step on the brakes.
And their identity. I think that's been the theme of this discussion. Is like MK needs to rediscover / rebuild its own identity because then fatalities are a huge part of the brand. And this is not just the hardcore part of the fandom. Casuals too also do get annoyed with seeing the gratuitous torture porn YouTube videos.
And there's been people I hear on the Discord that are talking about like they don't want fatalities in the game anymore, and I was like, okay, I see your point, because personally I don't like them. I don't do fatalities, even if it is a good game, because I know fatalities like online, you're supposed to do, you do a fatality as like a good game kind of thing, but
I never got that, but
I mean, it's kind of what you're supposed to, not supposed to do, but
do a friendship, man. Come on, they got friendships now. Do a friendship.
No, friendships are supposed to be like, I beat you, ha ha ha.
Really? I think of it as like the opposite.
No, they're supposed to be like, I beat you, ha ha ha. It's kind of like that. Versus a fatality is like, hey, it's like a Balga game. That's the way I always looked at. That's the way I always saw it.
So funny. Yeah, you and I come from different different sides of the horizon on that one.
Yeah, but that's as far as the online competitive games plays go. But as far as like the some people are like, I hear them say like, I don't want fatalities in the next installment. And I'm like, I don't like fatalities either, but you can't have a Mortal Kombat game without fatalities. They're going to be there.
The fact that people are saying they don't want fatalities anymore shows how much of a drag they have become to the audience.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like if there are people saying I don't want fatalities in Mortal Kombat, NRS, the answer should not be take fatalities out of Mortal Kombat. It should be, fatalities, that's an essential part of our identity. How do we make those something people like again? And the answer, it doesn't mean you don't ever, like, you can have those sadistic kills, but save that for, like, your Melinas, your Barakas, your more primitive, primordial characters that are like it makes sense for them to want to slowly bring about someone's demise. But like there is just nothing wrong with having Sonya blow the kiss of death and then that's it. With having Katana just slice off somebody's head and that being that. With like, I don't know, man. Like, people talk shit on MK3 fatalities. I always loved Rain just striking you with lightning until you disintegrated. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was
like, and think of how that would look with modern graphics. Just like lightning striking somebody until they were just like drop dead to the ground, smoking on the floor. Like, it doesn't always have to be bloody. Sometimes it can be just as effective without it being bloody.
Yeah. Like, and it doesn't. Like particularly with that Raiden one that you just said as an example, like I can see it right now. It only needs to be like 5 seconds long. You can literally just be like have Raiden like call upon the storms and just be like, and then you hear the electric like build up and just be like, and that's it.
And that's that.
That's it. That's all you needed to do. Well,
speaking of X-rays, like the Raiden again, the speaking of Raiden and X-rays, the best X-ray in X was the one where Raiden drags you to the fucking sky, calls upon the storms and electrocutes you and throws you back down to earth. It doesn't take that long, but it's really cool to look at. Yeah,
and I hope that they do supers. I hope there is some kind of super. I hope they bring back something like X-rays in the next installment. I didn't mind X-rays. I thought X-rays were actually pretty good. I thought they were a pretty good addition to it, and also mainly because they were hardly used. Like they were there for you, if you decide to save up and everything. But I think the cinematics behind it need to be significantly shorter.
And
not a fatality. Like they're pretty much a fatality.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is I talked shit on X-rays when they first came out in 9. I was like, this doesn't really need to be here. Now looking back on it, I mean, X-rays were a blessing because like there was a cost to use them as a gameplay mechanic. You lost all your meter, and most of them were very high risk, very high reward. Because, like, you know, if you used it and it didn't hit, then your meter's gone for no reason. And so, like, you always thought twice. You always thought twice before you used one.
Yeah.
Whereas Fatal Blows, they reward you for being down in the fight, which in and of itself is just ridiculous. So as soon as you get it, you might as well throw it out there. And then they come back if you don't hit it, like, you know, what, 10 seconds
it's
later.
not like a resource that you waste. It's like you use it. It's like, oh, you missed. That's cool. It'll be back in 10 seconds.
Yeah, and
Or
you can just keep
however
spamming
long.
that. You can just keep spamming that if you want to.
Yeah, for the most part, but yeah.
And then once you do hit it, then you're stuck there watching it for, you know, the next 20 to 30 seconds.
I know,
and
they're just so over, like Frost's, for instance. I'm like, that's a fatality. Like, why would you pretty much just made a giant fatality? So essentially, like, every single game, because fatal blows are almost in every game, it's like you're pretty much seeing crazy long, you know, 20-second fatalities every single time,
right,
and everything. And I know it's like, I just said 20 seconds because that's how long they typically are, but it's like, it doesn't seem, you know, like it's like super long, but it was way too long.
It's way too the flow of every fight, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even when people complained about Dragon Ball FighterZ Supers being too long, and then Mortal Kombat's fatal blows and fatalities were even longer than those.
Hold my beer.
Yeah. I remember doing a fatal blow and checking my phone. Like, you know,
I would do that
it's
all
like,
the time.
do a fatal blow, and I was like, okay.
Is it over yet? All right, cool. I'm ready to fight again.
Yeah,
now.
I know. That's yeah. So, but yeah, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to bring up?
Let's see. I think we covered most everything. I wanted to run by you here, and if you want to throw this on the tail end of the episode, it can be. But I want to do another draft, and I'm trying to come up with one where, like, everybody has to, like, we go game by game. So, like,
okay,
for instance, so first we do MK1, so we have 7 people in there, and everybody picks a character from MK1 based on random order. Then we go to MK2, re-roll again, and I'm trying to make a system for how that would. I just think that would add a whole new
that'd be cool
twist to it, right?
Yeah,
so I wanted to see if you'd be interested in that.
We'll talk. I would. We'll definitely talk about that when I'm not recording. But
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, for sure. But yeah, if you don't have anything, that's all I got. But yeah, thanks for asking to be on. That I appreciated that. I was, when someone was like, "Hey, I want to be on," and I was like, that's awesome. You know, I would love to have you on. So.
Well, yeah, no, thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah.
It was really fun talking with you. And like I said, as soon as I heard that you were doing something like this, then I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I love hearing about, you know, regulars in the Nethercast, you know, expanding the network. So yeah, it's really like, those of you listening who aren't a part of the Nethercast, go check out the Discord. Go check out the Nethercast podcast network as well.
Yeah, I'll make sure to link it in the description.
Yeah, definitely, because like it's really, I think it's the best place to talk Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
and I've been
and
on
there's all
so
sorts of things too, because you can go to I mean, in it there's like your general discussions, there's also like your combat and everything, and there's also a little bit of anime and music and stuff like that in there as well. But I mean, it's really cool to get a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different like opinions on the game. And I mean, there's even like, you know, we're in game, you know, what's funny is like, if you go into not me and Temp, it says like, if you go into gameplay in Temp's channel, essentially, it's like, we don't even talk about Mortal Kombat in there. We're usually talking about like every other game besides Mortal Kombat.
Pop in there and I'm like, oh, what are they talking about in gameplay today? It's always
Soul Calibur 6,
interesting.
it's Guilty Gear Xrd, or, you know, Guilty Gear Strive. We're talking about Street Fighter 6. We're talking about Tekken 7, Tekken 8, you know. Yeah, we talk about pretty much every other game besides Mortal Kombat.
And if you come into lore, then you can find the most detailed, deep, intricate discussions of Mortal Kombat that you
ask
ever
Razor.
find.
Go ask Razor a question.
Anything. Ask him anything.
Ask Razor something, and yeah,
you will get sometimes like an answer with more detail
before you do.
Oh yeah, because you'll get an answer with more like ask why Tanya wears yellow. You might get a short story in return.
Exactly.
You gotta love Razor, man.
Yeah,
you gotta
for
love
sure.
Razor. That guy, like he is a walking MK Bible. I don't know, man. It's like what Shad said in one of the Nethercasts. No, it wasn't Shad who said that. It was Cyborg who said, "I have no idea why WB has not hired you, Razor, to be like their story directionalist yet, because like you would go in there and just like have everything in line in like a couple days, and like there would be no more continuity errors and everything."
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it, man. And
thank you, Shred. Really appreciate it. I look forward to watching your channel grow, and I look forward to catching up and seeing who else from the Nethercast community and outside of the Nethercast community you get to guest on this.
Gosh, I hope so. Like if I could get Kizzy K or Tweety on this show, that'd be great, because I'd love to talk.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Have a good night. We'll definitely talk soon.
You too, buddy. Take care.
All right.